Okay, welcome into today's session and go through my full push session today. So I've decided I'm going to split these videos up. I'm going to kind of do, I think it's going to be called like prep files or something like that, and kind of go over my prep in more detail in regards to nutrition and all the kind of ins and outs of it. And then training, I'm going to do it in separate videos. They're going to be a little bit longer, and instead of just kind of showing a little cool, like video of like me grunting and shit like that, I'm actually going to go through it and kind of try and educate people on what I do and why. I think it'd just be more beneficial, rather than just kind of show a load of stuff, me lifting whatever, and to kind of like putting no value out there. So I'd rather go through things, kind of explain to you guys what I do, why I do it, and then hopefully you can kind of take actually some kind of stuff out of that to apply into your own training. Or you can just ignore the video. But yeah, please watch it. Please subscribe. Drop a like if you enjoy it, and any comments or questions, feel free to drop them down below. But essentially, I start off all my push sessions with a pulling movement. So yeah, if that isn't triggering, I don't know what is. Start off all my push sessions with a pull movement, which is going to be some sort of ISO kind of row. I quite like it on the cables. Again, it's very, very like light and stuff like that. It's not for like to like challenge the muscle necessarily. It's just to kind of like get a contraction, get it kind of warmed up, get the lats engaged, so I can kind of feel them, so I can get some blood in there. Same with like the traps and stuff as well. So in a minute I kind of tilt my elbow out to the side a little bit more, which kind of focuses a little bit more on the traps and the rear delt. I think I got this from Jordan Peters a couple of years ago. Actually, it was in one of his very, very old videos. I think when he first started like trained by JP. I picked it up back then and introduced it ever since. It's been really, really helpful. So you know, credit to him where it's due. Very, very helpful, helped me a lot in my push sessions, and I highly recommend it, especially if you find that you're kind of like losing your lats and kind of losing that back kind of tightness when you're trying to press. So yeah, always do it. High reps, very, very light, and I kind of do it off feel, so nowhere near failure. Going into the first exercise, what I started doing recently, and kind of one of the main reasons I wanted to make this video and go into detail was the banded stuff that I'm doing on the chest press. I had a few little comments on Instagram of people that clearly don't understand it, which is fair enough. It's quite like an advanced thing, and I've only just recently started implementing it, especially on the kind of chest press. I see a lot of people doing it on like leg press and stuff like that, more because of their favorite influencers are doing it, I think. But anyway, the reason why we do it on a chest press, obviously when you band anything in general, it isn't needed. It's kind of, you know, more to, you know, slightly help the individual if it's needed, if that makes sense. So you can kind of change the resistance profile on a machine by introducing a band. You know, there's nothing wrong with doing it without a band. It's not going to drastically make you get more gains or anything like that. It just can, you know, potentially help you a little bit. Obviously you get two types of kind of like loading with the bands. The loading that you see at the minute is just like standard. Obviously, you know, the further I extend and press, the more resistance gets added to the press. So it makes it kind of a harder or more challenging at the extended range, so with the shortened range of the muscle, when you're extending your arms. And then obviously you've got kind of like an unloading way of doing it, where you would essentially like reverse band something like a leg press or a hack squat from the top. So therefore, you know, when you're kind of doing the eccentric, the band slowly kind of stretches out and takes more kind of like load off of you. So it's kind of two different ways to doing it. This is like the kind of usual way you'll see it. The other way of kind of like reverse banding is more useful for people who have things like arthritis and stuff. I use it for leg press because personally I have like an operation on my knee with 2 pins and stuff in it, and I find that it massively has like a benefit to me on that because it gradually slows it down, meaning that it's not just a sudden like thud at the bottom. You'll see it as well on here that I've kind of changed how tight the bands are. This is very, very cool, this machine, just because it's kind of where the pegs are. I don't know if it's done intentionally, but it kind of allows you to put a band on there. Obviously, in regards to the different bands, you get like several different colors that all represent like kind of different tensions. The red one is a very like kind of mild, like tiny one. But you know, that's all you really need on a chest press like this if you're going to implement it. Obviously going into kind of like the details of why I use it on this, more specifically, when you are pressing, and it kind of applies to any sort of pressing movement, when you are fully extended, is obviously the point where you're strongest. Obviously when you have fully extended your arms, or even closely fully extended your arms, obviously there is almost little to no, kind of loading or resistance kind of on your like muscle that you're using, purely because it's, you know, going through your body, like through your arms, rather than kind of through the muscle. So obviously, you know, when you're at a position where your arms are almost extended, like fully extended, the loading is very, very minimal. So ideally then you want kind of a higher amount of loading or higher amount of resistance kind of on that muscle to make up for it. Whereas with this, it's kind of very much the opposite. I don't know if it's just, you know, obviously it's very much down to like your own personal body and your own individual body, hence why they have like an adjustable seat, hence why a lot of machines have various adjustable bits on there, just because, you know, exercises are very, very individual. But obviously, you know, there's not very many ways, or there's only kind of like one way that I know of that you can really change the resistance through like a machine being made. And there are machines that like plate loaded machines that do actually have ways that you can kind of change the resistance profile of a machine by putting the like plates in different areas, but they're very, very hard to come by, and you don't find them in normal gyms, and even then they're not too great all the time. Some of them are wicked, but you don't really find them in gyms. So essentially, yeah, banding on here. Adding a band in simply changes the resistance profile, makes it more challenging at the extended range of the movement when my muscles are shortened. Personally find it makes a big difference on my chest on this. If I do it without the bands on, I just get a big kind of like shoulder pump. I just kind of, you know, I can obviously lift more plates on it, but I feel like coming off it, I don't get this same sort of kind of contraction, and I don't kind of damage the muscle to the extent which I do when I put the bands on it. So for me, it works a lot better. It's worth trying if you have a machine like this in your gym. It's a hammer strength machine. You know, it's going to be different on machines as well. The way this is built makes it kind of almost necessary to put bands on there, or makes it beneficial to put bands on there. You might find that if it is a different brand, then it's going to be built differently. The resistance profile is therefore going to be different. So if it's a different brand, if it's not the hammer strength one, not this specific one, then it might be completely different. Yours might be, you know, absolutely fine to use without bands. But I personally find using bands on this massively helps. So yeah, with this, usually do 2 or 3 working sets. It's just my first exercise for push, and obviously, you know, predominantly focused on the chest. I don't want to kind of get the front delts involved really, because obviously, you know, the idea is chest here. As you see, start off with bands, and then as it gets to the end, obviously the shortened range of the movement, or the shortened range of the muscle is always kind of where it almost fatigues first. So after 2 sets, I did kind of back off set without any bands on at all, just because, you know, kind of once that aerial range has been kind of obliterated, then, you know, it's not really necessary anymore. And again, it's going to change throughout like an exercise. So if you place these right at the end of a session, you may find that you don't need any bands whatsoever, whereas because they're at the front, then obviously it's kind of beneficial to have them. I hope that was explained relatively well. It's like a super hard thing to explain, but I tried my best. In regards to the next exercise is pressing. I always think that, you know, these have been the staple of my like chest like programs for like things pretty much since I started. Personally, I don't like bench press a lot. I think it is because of like my joint sort of thing. Like I'm like unable to go any lower than this. Like this is my active range, which is another thing I get questioned on a few times. Like my active range for pressing, because I do very much like round upwards. My active range for pressing is like probably smaller than the average person. Plus I've also gone through the experience of, you know, almost ripping my fucking rotator cuff from going too low. But active range is essentially just not using like the passive tissues, which is like your ligaments and your joint and stuff like that, to kind of propel and use kind of, kind of propel it up, instead of just keeping it on the muscle through the whole range. So yeah, the idea again for here is to keep the loading like on my chest and not kind of let my delts and my like kind of joints and stuff take the kind of loading from it. So as soon as I kind of get to a position where that loading starts to come off my chest and onto my delts, then I go back up again. And again, with like pressing, like you need to be, you know, implementing movements like that, like as some, you know, kind of bulk of your training if you're looking at bodybuilding, especially if you're younger. Like, I've been doing this for like 10 years. And yeah, like chest is probably one of my strongest body parts as well, or probably is my strongest body part. So, you know, I don't know, it's like with a lot of things, it's kind of like, yeah, like just blabbering on now. But yeah, anyway, going on to the next exercise, chest flies. So de-handle these is good, but again, like I see a few people de-handling them just because a certain influencer, they like maybe de-handling them, and then they're doing it to the point where it actually, because the idea of doing it, basically the idea of putting like a D-handle on this is basically take the tension off of your wrist. But if you, for example, on this, connect the D-handle along the bottom so that it's the kind of machine is trying to twist it, it defeats the whole point of doing it, because then the handle's trying to twist and it kind of puts more pressure on your wrist. So don't just do it for the sake of it. I understand why you're doing it. You know, put them on this way, put them on the handle behind, just kind of allows you to do the chest fly, allows you to kind of, you know, touch your hands together, so you get like the full contraction. Whereas obviously if you're holding onto the machine, usually it clips together like here, so you can actually hold your hands together and get that kind of last bit of the contraction. And also takes a lot of stress and stuff off your like wrist joints and elbows and stuff. So yeah, really like this movement. Yeah, do again 2 sets. Like most sets I do, you're gonna have like, or most exercises, gonna have 2 sets. I may add in another one if I feel like, you know, I need to. I may add in a back off set. I may do like a drop set or something on certain exercises. Like I'm probably more inclined to do drop sets and on exercises where I go for higher reps. So things like this, are probably more likely to do a drop set, just because I generally go higher reps on this, whereas pressing I don't. And you can quite easily kind of, you know, drop the weight on this. Whereas on like a pressing movement, you know, you've got to go find some more dumbbells, and within that time, you've pretty much had a rest anyway, or had like a small rest. So it's not really the same. And again, with this movement, like you see a lot of people, like not fully contracting the muscle, so they kind of go to here and then go back, and then go to here and go back. It's fine, you know, if the last few reps you need to just kind of get, you know, do like half reps, and it's absolutely fine. But if you are doing all the reps like that, then it's not cool. So make sure that you are going through the full range of motion for this exercise. Make sure you're fully contracting the muscle, and try and keep your chest up and try and keep it on your chest, because you see a lot of people as well using their front delts to do it. Going into the first tricep exercise, so I've got tricep dip, again using chains on this, just to change the resistance profile, making it heavier at the top. I find it like loads my triceps a lot better, especially on this machine, so it's worth doing. You'll see that I kind of just use the chains. I think they're like 25 kilo chains, something like that. Not that it really makes any difference. Again, like trying to keep my chest up. Like if you're doing like a normal dip, you're probably more likely to kind of dip your chest down so that you can kind of use your chest if you're doing kind of focusing on that. But with a tricep dip, ideally you want to kind of keep your chest up a little bit more to keep the loading on your triceps. And then you'll see again here, the way that I kind of put the band, I basically loop it so that it's kind of more on there, just kind of, again, I'm not going to bother going into it too much detail, but essentially it just like increases the loading like at the top of the movement, or the kind of when my arms are fully extended. But again, not really too necessary, but I find it helps, so I do it. In regards to the next exercise, we've got a tricep push down. Again, I use the bar. I found the bar like really getting along quite well with the bar at the minute. And arms are like an area I want to try and bring up at the minute. So I've actually moved it. So I'm training my arms like in both push and pull days. That after the main body part. So, you know, on my push day, for example, here, I will do chest, and then I will do triceps, and then I'll do shoulders after, rather than what I used to do was do chest, shoulders, and then triceps. And I found it's really, really good. So yeah, again, like you can kind of see the range of motion of this. You don't ever want to like fully extend, so you're like fully locked out. But yeah, you can get pretty close to this and it's fine, especially because your hands are quite close together. So, you know, you pretty much go until triceps fully contracted. Again, drop set on this. I do like my drop sets. I'm a big fan, especially on these kind of smaller muscle groups and smaller exercises where you can't like massively load them with just like a lot of weight. I quite often will do some like drop sets and stuff just to kind of eke every little bit out I can of the muscle. And yeah, it's not really a huge amount to go through with triceps really. Obviously ropes, again, like one of the main things of these exercises is just to keep your elbows pinned, keep them pinned down by your side, and make sure they don't move. So you see here, my elbows don't move. What moves is, you know, kind of my wrists essentially. And tricep extends, tricep contracts, tricep extends and contracts again, just over and over again. But yeah, ideally, if you start swinging your arms around, you're going to end up using your like rear delts and your lats and stuff to help you pull it down. And you'll quite often see, like, I might kind of, like here, I might kind of use a little bit of momentum and stuff to kind of get it, you know, get those last few little reps or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, when the muscle's done, it's done, and you should just stop. Like, there's no point kind of making stupid faces and fucking using your whole body weight to try and get another rep because you don't achieve anything from it. And then finishing it off, scroll crushers. I usually do this on the machine. I'll probably go back to doing it on the machine next week. But I thought I'd just try it on the bar, but I definitely prefer it on the machine. And then I go through this real quick. It's going to be some shoulder presses. So I only did like 2 sets, and it's not anything crazy. I think I did like 1 heavier set and then 1 kind of lighter set. And again, this is more for me. It's more like, I don't know, almost like functional work, just doing a bit of overhead pressing. Like obviously I train them quite a lot with shoulders with all the heavy rows and all the heavy pressing and stuff that I'm doing at the minute. But I still want some overhead movement, so stuck those in. And then this is exercise that I really get along with at the minute. Obviously like laterals, and I usually do laterals with dumbbells. I do them with cuffs every now and again. But I just, like, to be honest, I just can't be fucked to do it with cuffs. I think there's so much fussing about and so much moving about on the machine half the time that I'd rather just pick up a pair of dumbbells and do some laterals, or go on a machine like this. And I find that like equally as good, and easier to do things like drop sets and stuff like that on it, which I quite often do with laterals. So you see on here, you know, trying to keep everything on the medial delt. I don't want, or medial and kind of rear delt, I don't want like to kind of be using my traps. So you see that instead of, you know, seeing my whole back come up, I try and like lock my traps in, and just engage my delts. Again, holding on to some D handles in my hands as well, just kind of keep things locked in. It helps me concentrate, helps me kind of drive into the pads with kind of like my arms. And yeah, I'll literally just go until my delts physically like cannot move. You're going to use your traps a little bit on this. They're going to kick in a little bit, but ideally you want to kind of keep them out of it, you know, really as much as possible, because obviously your traps are the dominant muscle. They're much stronger. So if you let them, they will just take over and you won't be kind of, you know, training your delts. And here we have a physique update. So still a little bit chubby. But I am currently 216 pounds. So dropped about 15 pounds altogether so far this mini cut. And yes, I am doing some men's physique posing, because yes, I may or may not be doing some men's physique shows next year as well. But yeah, this is current condition, a little bit posing. Haven't done this in a while. I haven't gone through the motions of a men's physique posing in a while, only with clients. But yeah, excited to kind of get some more of this fat off and see what's underneath. But this current condition at the minute, actually really happy with how things are looking. I've never looked like this. I've never had like this, or I've never even been this heavy before, let alone looked relatively alright in my opinion at this weight. So yeah, go through some posing. This will be the new posing room for the time being, until I move. Go through some men's physique posing after training, burns a bit of extra calories, and obviously, you know, you can never practice posing enough. And then also go through some bodybuilding poses as well. But I don't know if I'll be able to pose in here with my trousers off, just because it's kind of like a dance studio attached to the gym. So I may get some people fucking attacking me, because it's kind of like a health center that I train at. It's not like a bodybuilding gym. But yeah, like relatively happy. Waist come in 2 belt sizes over the last few weeks since I started the mini cut. And yeah, that is the end of today's session. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I guess I'll see you in the next video. But yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, drop a comment if you have any questions, and obviously I'll catch you in the next video.